Welcome to Free Media, Free Minds with me, your host, Chelsea Noah Ogilvy. So, as you can see, we are not at our studios this evening, but instead we are bringing you all the things that you need to know about digital security and children in the media from the ICANN Centre. So, the ICANN Centre is an initiative of the Western Cape Government and of the Genesis Community IT Initiative. So, in a little bit, we'll be hearing from some of the representatives to speak to us on this topic. Check it out. And tonight we are at the ICANN Centre, still discussing digital security and children in the media. And joining me for this conversation is Judah, Lincoln, and Nigel at the ICANN Centre. Can you guys just let me know what you do and who you are?
Good evening, Chelsea. I'm Judah Skulls. I am the Center Coordinator of the ICANN Center. So the ICANN Center is a public access facility where we connect citizens to internet, broadband, and Wi-Fi. Yes, so our purpose is to become a digital community.
Hi, good evening. My name is Lincoln Kibido. So I work at the Icon Center. I'm the commercial zone administrator. So most of the stuff that we do here is like digital services, scanning, copying, faxing, emailing, and making CVs. Yeah, so it's mostly digital services.
Hi, good evening, Chelsea. My name is Niles Johannes, and I'm the Programming Officer for Genesis at the ICANN Center. So my purpose here is to, as we go into a digital transformation, when people start to know the digital environment, my purpose is to look at courses that will actually assist them in looking for careers on the road ahead.
So with that being said, I think a good place to start in this conversation is just asking, because we have very young viewers at home, much older audiences at home, who should be concerned about their digital security? Who wants to take this question?
Okay, I would say everyone, yes, but mostly our children, as they are the group that is mostly using the technology. And currently, we are busy at schools where we train online safety at various schools in the surrounding areas of Alsius River. But we do not exclude anyone as we living in the world of technology, so everyone needs to be equipped.
That's great. Okay, so when we say digital security, is there more to it than not sharing our Facebook passwords? Is there more that we can do to be digitally safe online than just saying, okay, I'm not going to share my Facebook password or my Twitter password or whatever it is?
Okay, so I think it's more of a behavior thing. So once you behave badly, you're gonna get negative things. So it's all about what you're attracting to yourself. So if you're posting positive stuff, you're attracting positive things towards you, and it's a mindset. So once you start changing younger children's mindsets of how to behave online, I think we'll solve the problem of online safety and how to behave online.
Because I think also we forget that digital spaces have real life impact. Like we just get caught up in we're on our phones and we're tweeting and we're scrolling and vertical. But to actually see that has real life implications, I think is a lot of what people, especially young people, because like you said, a lot of young people are online. A lot of young people don't understand that. So if we do speak about the devices in our pockets, how do we protect our metadata?
I would say that most of our citizens must learn not to put out the passwords out there. Also, maybe like what my son does, he has a fingerprint to access, so no one has access to his phone. Even though I try to maybe hack or get me, there are ways to get into it, but the fingerprint thingy is more a secure mode for him. Also, most of our people, we use our date of birth or maybe a favorite animal. So people that knows you can easily get access. They will just maybe figure out, okay, she's born in blah, 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 blah. Let's try that. Yeah. So I would say that we need to be more cautious. And just to come back to your previous question, I think that there's more websites like Facebook. Everyone uses Facebook, social media, but there's like other There's Google, there's Twitter, all of that. So the danger of it can also be, especially when we check in at certain places. You don't know who's monitoring you. They would go on there, they would see your every move, where you go, what you do. Also, crime can come from that. We can prevent crime from being very cautious online also. And not for everyone to know where your whereabouts. Or yeah.
I think that we forget about how vast the internet is and how public the internet is. And we just kind of, this is a cute selfie. I just went to Tambo. I'm flying to New York, whatever the situation is. And we just get so caught up in that. I'm going to get so many likes on this post. But you forget how public the internet is. So, Nigel, can you maybe tell us, in your opinion, do young people forget how vast and how public the internet is, and what kind of situations do they find themselves in?
I think that's one of the greatest challenges we face in society, that even though the youngsters are vulnerable, I think they are not accountable, or they are not responsible enough unto it. As you said, that because the internet, the World Wide Web, means it is globally, once it's out, it's out. And that's what they don't realize. Maybe sometimes they think, okay, making fun of something or somebody, and they just push it out onto it. But I don't realize that if it's really out, it's out, and it's I might delete. If it's you and you post maybe a picture, you can delete it. But what about the next person? If they get it, they will just send it out, and that's why things go so viral onto it. So one thing also I think about protecting the metadata is that many times you overshare the data onto it. And that's where we come so many times into difficulties and in trouble. And maybe you say maybe some is part of information, and when the information comes in the wrong person's hands, then it just go viral onto it. So I think there's not enough responsibility amongst the youngsters onto it. And that's what we need to talk, as Mr. Lincoln said, we need to teach them about what is the things behind the internet and how it can spread so easily like a fire onto it.
On that, actually, we have seen situations of revenge porn where we have young people, or just really anyone, sending pictures of themselves, a little bit explicit, a little bit, and you feel comfortable with it. This is my partner, this is someone I've been seeing for a while, but things don't stay together for very long, and things fall apart as they do. And now you're sitting in a situation where you have someone who is threatening to post your things online. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I speak under correction, our Court actually ruled that as illegal. So we find young people in these situations more often than we want to. As a young person who is watching at home, if they do find themselves in a situation where they are being threatened with, let's say, revenge porn, they're being threatened with the vastness of the internet, how do you even begin to tackle that? As a young person, I can't go to my parents. What were you doing? Sending those pictures in the first place. How do we, I think, let me rephrase my question. As parents and as children, how do we work around that?
Okay. First, I will say that it's very important that, because it's out, like I said, it's out, right? Now, this person is threatening you. You were maybe in a relationship, so either party, because women do it and men do it. So they threaten you, give me money, or I want to sleep again with you, all those type of things. The first thing I will say is to get a trustable person on your side, first of all. It can be a social worker, it can be a psychologist, just to take you through the process, because there's an emotional destruction that can cause on the path. See, so after that, if everything goes well, they can lay charges against the person, because it's a threat. It can lead to death, it can lead to emotional breakdown, it can lead to a nervous breakdown. So it can lead to many things that will destroy you at the end of the day. So you can lay a charge, and the person can be prosecuted by the court of law onto it. So.
Okay, do you want to elaborate?
Yeah, I think that most of our youth, they understand the power of the technology more. And based on our recent cybercrime law, the unsatisfied partner, so that is now the one that is not happy that it did not succeed with his attempt. Yeah, he will expose personal and intimate images maybe on social media and all of that, but he can be prosecuted definitely. And also that the law provides provision, but our youth needs to know about the law. So that is why we have awareness programs at the schools, at our facility, to make our people aware of all these knowledge. So not everyone knows all about it. We currently, as we speak, we have a program for online safety for parents this morning. Yes, we have a morning session, and then we have evening sessions for those that are working, to so that our parents can also be clued up with what is going on, what are their children doing on the internet, how can they guide their children, tips, basically give them tips for them to gain knowledge on all these safety methods to prevent such things to happen to their kids. So there is a cyber criminal law, and also you can open up a criminal case against those people. Yeah.
I think we are moving into a very scary era, especially, as people who aren't 110% certain of what's going on. We kind of just have ideas of this is kind of how Twitter works, or kind of how Facebook works, or kind of how Instagram works, especially as parents, because how do you begin to put down safeguards on a platform that you barely understand yourself? Okay, so we are going to get more into this conversation a little bit after the break. We are speaking to Judah, Nigel, and Lincoln at the ICANN Center. Welcome back from the ad break. You are still watching Free Media, Free Minds, and we are still discussing digital security and children in the media. And we are still speaking to Lincoln, Nigel, and Judah on this topic. So before we went to a break, we spoke a little bit about how the internet and the vastness of it can be a very scary idea for people who don't completely understand it, or for parents who are trying to help their kids be safe online, but also without intruding on their privacy. So I think that's my next question. How do we ensure, as parents, that our children are safe online without intruding on their privacy? Judah, maybe as a mom.
Okay. I would say mostly with parents being at home or not, I would recommend not to buy data for their child. Like if I'm going to use me, my husband, and our son as an example. We don't buy data from any service provider. Besides, we have an internet service provider, which is Sonic Wireless. They are our internet service provider for the ICANN Center as well as our home. So that means that we have access to our router. So if you buy data at a shop, Vodacom or whatever, you don't have any access to it. But if you receive it from an internet service provider, you have access to your own router. So you can monitor, you can give your child access to what you want him to have access to. You can even block certain websites or anything on that router. And we store out like his computer. It depends on which devices he uses, if it's his smartphone or the computer or laptop. So it must be, for us, it has to be visible. So if I walk around in the house, I would want to see if he's online. What is he doing? I'll just peek and just see what is he doing. So I would advise the parents not to buy data for their children, but rather to have an internet service provider at their house, and so that they can have access to their routers. And also privacy is important for your child, but I think have family rules, set rules. This is how we're going to do things in our house. So yeah.
Do you guys maybe have any rules in your homes for the way that you move around with kids and the internet?
Okay, we have a rule in the house. No child under 13 must use WhatsApp or go on Facebook, but they are allowed to use a mobile device. They can use the device, but no social media at all. So when they are older than 13, then they'll be able to log into Facebook or create their own email address. So yeah, that's one of the rules we have in our house.
I think sometimes we can't control what the children are actually watching because they found ways and means how to actually cross their barriers onto it. But by me personally, what we do is if the data's up, it's up. Okay, whatever you want to watch onto it, right? You have to pay for that onto it. But it's very important. Like you can actually regulate it in rather than actually control it onto it. And by means is to block the sites, as Judah said, onto it. Block the sites that you know that contains maybe porn, that is maybe things that's not educational, and maybe link the sites to when they type in something, then maybe educational sites must come rather onto it. So that's what we can do. Yeah.
I think that's great because I think it's a very it's a catch 22, and it's something that needs some hectic balance, because you on the one hand you want to be safe and you want your child to be safe and you don't want them to see things they're not supposed to see, but on the other hand it's a matter of trust and privacy and respect, honestly. So if we look at the parents, I think, like we've established, I think we can conclude that the internet can be a scary place, but it doesn't have to be a scary place. It really doesn't. So what can we tell our parents who are watching at home? How can they become more tech savvy? How can they, without, because I think it can become a little bit overwhelming, without having to be like, my cunt, can you quickly just help me connect the whatever it is? Or do you know how to connect the phone or the Wi-Fi or whatever it is? How do we, as parents, what can we tell them to make them, just to give them a little bit of peace of mind? And what can we tell them so that they can also get hands-on in the digital era?
I would say that the only way to overcome that fear for a parent is to gain knowledge concerning the digital world. We are living in a world of technology, and we cannot be excluded from it. Yes, our kids are way more in advance as we as parents, so that is, I would say that our parents should be clued up with what is happening, especially in the environments that we are living in. So yes, that is the reason why we as the Icon Center offer these various training and courses and bring awareness programs to our community in Elsies River.
Okay. Yeah, I can fully agree with Ms. Judah. Many times the parents are scared, for change, but we must understand that the children are learning these things outside. At school, among their friend circles, they learn it, they onto it. So we must also upgrade onto it. Like you're going into a battle, if you see that your enemy has got weaponry, you must also get some weaponry. Otherwise, you're going to lose the battle. So if you know these things and not be ignorant, you hear these things over the radio, you see it over the television, you read it in the papers, so don't ignore it. Show some interest into it, and talk to your child about it. So these things onto it. And maybe some challenges that she faces maybe in the internet. Look at the advantages, look at the disadvantages, and also show that you also have some knowledge into it. And if you don't know how to do it, ask the child to show you, because many times the parents are scared because they don't want the children to teach them, but they want to teach the children onto it. So it's like a win-win situation. You teach me, I teach you, and that also gives the children more confidence into speaking to the parent. Okay, I can teach my mommy something, my mommy can teach me something, or the dad, etc. Onto it.
Okay, so I think the efficient thing to do is to be realistic. So some of the parents don't even know how to use the phone, and then the child comes in and play that role to learn them how to use it. But the best thing to do is to download. You get app blockers. Certain apps is just there to block certain apps. So if you add it to the app blocker, so then automatically when you get a message or WhatsApp or Facebook, the child won't be able to enter the specific app because the app blocker is there to block the app. So there's a code on it, so you have to punch in the code to block the certain app. So whenever the child is maybe busy with the phone or showing you something on the phone and you don't want them to use your WhatsApp or to use your Facebook, you can actually add the app blocker. So nobody will be able to enter that app without the code. So that's the only way you can do it. And you can still use the device like normally you use it, where you have the email address. You can go into the email, you can view apps, you can play games, but the app blocker allows you not to use certain apps. You can't enter it without maybe your fingerprint scanner or your password. So that is the best thing to do for now. For you that's still learning, so get your app blocker, block the certain app, so just for you to use. So it's not for the child, just for you to use. Okay.
All right, great. I think those are really good solutions, especially because they all involve security, but without infringing on privacy. And I think that's the balance really in the conclusion of this whole episode. I think that's what we're really trying to push towards, is being there for our children and making sure that they do things safely, but without jumping on top of what they're doing. Because I mean, they are still humans, and digital experiences are still very much real. And I think we shouldn't forget that. Okay, so we are speaking to Nigel, Judah, and Lincoln at the ICANN Center on digital security and children in the media. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to get into a conversation that we had with Tony Lawrence at a coffee shop. Welcome to it. You are still watching Free Media, Free Minds with me, your host, Chelsea Noah Ogilvie. And tonight we are discussing digital security and children in the media. So we just had a conversation with Llewellyn at the ICANN Center. And right about now we are going to speak to Tony Lawrence on the prevention of violence against young people, specifically in digital spaces. And we'll also have a look at the Guardian app. So welcome to it. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Of course. So we are going to first look at, let's first get into the work that you do. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and the work that you do?
I'm a child safety specialist, looking at safeguarding of children of any age. And then I have a non-profit company called Safer Kids ZA. And we try to help parents to safeguard their children and how to teach their children to safeguard themselves, because we can teach children to ensure that they avoid dangerous spaces, that they are aware of circumstances and so on, and maybe anybody soliciting or trying to groom them and so on. So it's educational. We try to provide information, awareness, and obviously training.
Okay, so if we do look at the digital space, what kinds of violent activities do we see in digital spaces?
Obviously, with the third industrial revolution, we were introduced to a whole new world of technology. And in the fourth industrial revolution, we're learning how to effectively use that. And on the other extreme, abuse it. And so we need to understand the capacity, the capability of the technology, what it is able to do for us, and then split that into what's good for us and what's maybe not so good, and how do I know what's not good for me. And there are a number of ways we can do that. The first thing is the dangers, to understand that we are exposed. The digital world is a space on its own. If you think of your home as a space that's either safe or not, or public spaces, the park, the streets, or the school campus, or the church, for example, these are all spaces, whether public or not. They each have a level of risk attached for any young person, especially for children. And homes in particular is a very dangerous one, let me tell you. 60% of all violence perpetrated against children happens in the home, and most probably by somebody that they know. And so the additional space, which is not a physical space necessarily, but it's a global phenomena. It's something that exists in the wide world, which is your technology cyberspace, is equally dangerous, although it doesn't look like it. And so something as simple as a cell phone can become a gateway to something violent in the future. So initially it might start off very innocently. I made a friend with another boy. He's 16 years old. I didn't know it was a fake ID, a fake profile, sorry, and it happens to be a 45-year-old person fishing to connect with a young person. And it starts with innocent conversations and eventually leads to send me a photograph and so on. And one thing leads to another. Once they have some evidence about you, they will coerce you into meeting and maybe getting into all sorts of tacky things. One of the fastest growing and largest industries in the world, and South Africa is most probably in the center of it, is obviously human trafficking. And so, again, using technology, I was at the junior gymnastic championships the other day, and one of the things I specifically did there was watching persons, especially men, taking photographs of all of the gymnasts, not just one. When it's one, I would assume that's your child. But if you're taking pictures of everybody, then what's happening in the background is the person has a website. They're uploading photographs for an international audience and possible business. And someone may select a child from the list of photographs and say, I want that one. And then the process starts. And so he will target that child, and before the end of the day, that child will have changed hands about 20 times, land up in a container by the evening with 149 other children on its way to Indonesia or the Philippines or somewhere. And that's how quickly it can happen, and that's how often it happens. We don't always see it in the news, but it happens, and it's technology. It's someone sitting there in the audience just taking casual pictures like everybody else. But they are using the technology for their own means, and it's normally business. There's money involved, $2,000 to $3,000 for the life of a child. And it for me, all of anything that happens to children or teenagers in particular could have been avoided. Okay, and there are many things one can do there. As much as there are apps you can download, and some of it being terrible ones and not very useful, there are also useful apps.
Okay, can you tell us about the Guardian app and how you are related, how you have found yourself in the Guardian app?
The Guardian is one of many apps, obviously, but the Guardian company has been in existence for about 10 years, and it was created by Mark Hartwig, who was a previous SAPS investigator for child crimes or crimes perpetrated against children. And he had this passion to do a lot more than just investigate crimes, and how can we prevent. And he wanted to be in the prevention space specifically, which is where I am. And one of the things he developed was known then as the Guardian Schools app. It's an app which is made available to all the learners in a particular school, and the app allows the learners to report incidences and issues, whether they witness it happening to others or whether it's happening to them. They are able to, we know that our teenagers and so on don't want to speak out, don't want to report stuff until it spirals out of control and it becomes too serious and so on, and eventually they have to disclose, or the parents have to find them somewhere on a beach having been molested and so on. So the app allows you to, for the learner to actually, like with WhatsApp and so on, it's text-based, but they can attach a video. So if they're witnessing a fight, or a bully in action, or someone walking around with a 9mm in their belt and so on, or someone peddling drugs, and they manage to catch a photo or a video, instead of just sending it to be viral all over the world, you can attach it to your report, and that report will go to a number of investigators that would have been appointed by the school to investigate. So an investigator, which will also be anonymous, will be communicating with the learner and finding out more information and dealing with it. The learner may disclose who the perpetrator is or the bully's name, for example, and that's fine. But the reporter, that person's information is kept anonymous, obviously. And so that's one means by which young people can report.
So is this, sorry to interrupt you, Tony. So is this, when we say bullying, is it cyberbullying and face-to-face bullying, or does, when you say reporting, is it just for things that happen in real life, if you will?
It can be any type of bullying. And again, and you're right, there are different types of bullying, cyberbullying. And it's for them to ask questions. They may be unsure about something. They've observed something, they've downloaded something, they saw a picture, they can take a screenshot on that and report it and say, help me understand this. Is this something that's worth pursuing, or is this a dangerous scenario? And they can be helped. The whole idea is for them to get help early and then to take good decisions beyond that. If they don't ask, they are liable to take a bad decision and land up in a tricky situation. And so the Guardian app is a means to get that help very early. We've had even girls who have been molested and abused by their stepfathers or boyfriends of their mothers and so on, who eventually plucked up the courage to report it. They were too scared and too ashamed or embarrassed to report it personally to someone, and they reported it on the Guardian, and we were able to help them get a professional involved, social worker and so on, and in some cases, if it was a very serious case, reported to SAPS for investigation. And so we can even prevent suicides, and we had one girl in particular that was contemplating cutting her wrists. And she said, this is the last option. I have told my teacher and my mother and so on, but nobody believes me. And that's part of the phenomena nowadays. Few people believes anybody. When a child reports something, no, you're joking, no, it can't be so and so and so on. And the person eventually withdraws and contemplates the worst. And we want to prevent that.
Okay, so Tony, before we wrap up, can you just let us know a little bit about the alarm trigger that the app has built into it?
There are two more features. I'll mention the one very briefly. The school will have the ability to send notifications to all the learners about potential dangers, or let's say the water has been disconnected and we know that city services are not always as good. Then a warning message can be sent out to all the learners, simple as that, apart from making announcements, but also to give safety tips and hints to learners, which helps them to be a whole lot more aware. So it has that a notification system involved as part of it. But the feature I am going to love the most is what is known as a panic button, but it's really just a help me button. It's a big red button, and it allows the person, when you're in a tricky situation, now we know for matriculants, for example, you're finishing up. Soon you'll be doing your last exam, and then the rave, all right? Then the beach party, the camp, the wherever. And we're moving into really dangerous situations, potentially. We have date rape, we have all sorts of stuff wrapped up in that. There's excess alcohol and who knows what else. And so you're going to be, yes, your parents don't really want to keep you away from that. You've deserved it, 12 years of hard work. But how do you know you can keep yourself safe? Now, you're not going to anonymously just report something. You may. We have had the situation where a teenager was scared about going to a party and asked the question up front, should I go or shouldn't I? Sorry. Because there's always a pre-party, then the main party, and then the after party. And she was concerned that there was going to be a lot of drinking ahead of time. And because of that, she asked the question, and they actually set up a sting operation. And she was told, go to the party and enjoy yourself, but avoid open drinks and all the other dangers. And 10 o'clock tonight, they had a sting operation with SAPS, and they found all the drugs and so on. The panic button itself allows you, when you're in a particular precarious situation, to hit the button, and it will then send a message, a link for a web page to 3 people that you've nominated. So their cell phone numbers will be in the system. And they will get that page. It'll have your GPS coordinates at that point, which if they click, it'll open up Google Maps. And so you can go straight to where the person is. It will also upload 2 photos. So if you hit the panic button and hold the phone up, it'll take a front and back photograph and upload that with the page and 10 seconds of audio. So you can hear whether there's gunshots or anything else in the background. And then the 3 people who receive it can then react. So it could be your father or your boyfriend or your uncle. They can respond immediately. If we send it to SAPS, it may take a little longer. So it's 3 people that you trust that will respond when you hit that button.
Fantastic, Tony. The name of the app, one more time before we go to an ad break.
The app is called The Guardian app. It's found on the Play Store or the iStore. And the app to download is free. If you want the panic button option, it'll cost you, I think, about 130 Rand for the year for that service.
Fantastic. You heard it for yourself. I think there's a lot of concerned parents out there who look at the digital era and kind of get a little bit concerned and a little bit stressed out. But with the app, it kind of takes away your stress a little bit. We're going to get into an ad break, and when we come back, we'll get into a Skype interview with Emila Vouche. Alrighty, so Emila Vouche joining us from Facebook. She's the public policy lead at Facebook for the SADC region. So Emila, can you tell us first of all, what does your research say about the use of Facebook in Africa?
Thank you so much for having me. So before I even go to the research about the use of Facebook in Africa, I think it's important for your viewers to understand how we as Facebook approach the work that we do in the continent. So as Facebook, we are committed, as you know, to the continent. We have an office in Johannesburg, and an office that's for, we also understand the markets and also to work towards impact. And what we've seen regarding the use of our platform is related to, one, people focusing on social needs, people using Facebook for groups to connect with people with the same interest, to attend events, but also to belong to a community, people with the same interests or people who are looking out for each other in the community. So various ways people are using Facebook for education, for entrepreneurship as well.
All right, fantastic. So how do you define digital security, especially in the African context? And maybe if you could speak to how how Facebook advises on digital security.
Yeah, so for us, safety is really at the core of everything we do. And we also believe that safety is a shared conversation, not only a shared conversation, but also a shared responsibility. And when we look at safety and also digital security, we're looking at people being able to express themselves, being able to connect with people that they want to connect without fearing for their lives, without fearing that they will be harassed or they'll be bullied on the platform. And when we are talking about Facebook platforms, we're also talking about Facebook, the Blue app, we're talking about WhatsApp, we're talking about Instagram, for people to feel safe when they connect with their with communities, with friends, and everyone they might want to communicate with. So for us, as I said, it's at the core of everything we do. Privacy as well is at the core of everything, and we prioritize this. It's built, privacy is built at the core of our products. Is to people, one is to not to leave safety for someone to say, I don't care about safety, but to really prioritize their safety, because at Facebook we do have several tools and resources that people can use. For example, I don't know if you know that we have the Facebook Center for Safety Center, for example, where people can get more resources on how to be safe online. We do have a parents portal, a youth portal where youths can hear other peers around online safety.
All right, so I think we can say that Facebook safety online has definitely evolved over the years as we've seen, different situations come up. But essentially, Emila, who is responsible for safety online? Whose responsibility is it?
So, I truly believe that safety is a shared conversation,
Yeah.
a shared responsibility. So, as someone who is using Facebook, I don't know, do you use Facebook?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, so I think as someone who uses Facebook, and even as your viewers who use Facebook, you cannot leave your safety in the hands of other people. So it's a shared responsibility. We do have resources that people can use. We do have tools that people can use, or resources where they can find more information. And the good thing about this is that resources are not only in English, so they are also in local languages. So I believe it's a shared responsibility. We still need to put in more effort in ensuring that people know about all these resources that we have and more information. But in South Africa, we have actually partnered with local organizations and social enterprises like Digify Africa to ensure that we can work with school children and teenagers to teach them more about safety and the educators to be involved in, if no one entity or no one stakeholder is responsible for safety, we all have to take a part.
Fantastic. So, Emila, as we begin to wrap up, can you just let us know how have children and women been affected by digital insecurity? And are these people more prone to digital security issues than other people?
Yeah. So one thing to remember is that you have to be 13 and above to use Facebook. So if you're less than 13 years old, you cannot use Facebook. And how can people who are using our platforms like Facebook, teenagers or women can benefit? I think the first thing is to know that we do have community standards that we've are being open and transparent about in how we go about developing them. And these community standards are very clear that in issues that are relevant in South Africa, like hate speech, that Facebook is no place for hate speech at all. So, we do have community standards, but also we are running programs and tools to ensure that people continue learning about how to stay safe. So there is quite a lot that we can do. But as we say at Facebook, we are 1% done. We continue to invest in local partnerships, and we are open to feedback to know what else we can do to ensure that Facebook remains a safe place for everyone who wants to connect on the platform.
You're so right, and I think that without those safeguards, things can get quite ugly, for lack of a better word. But as we finish up, Emila, before we head out, what is your advice to viewers regarding staying safe online, not just with Facebook or any other platform, completely online? How do we ensure that we are safer?
Yes, so completely to be safe online, not just on our platforms. I think it's important for people to take responsibility, to know what are the do's and don'ts when you are online. What can you share? The rules, especially with children, we encourage parents to ensure that the rules sometimes that apply offline. How do you ensure that you teach your children on how to engage online in a civil manner? So there are quite different resources that they can use, but also I encourage people, especially not who are using our platforms, to check their privacy settings, their security settings, to ensure that they are safe online, but in generally online, for them to take responsibility and be well informed on how best they can be safe, so that they can have a very good experience online. Because for us at Facebook, safety is something that we take very seriously, and we want everyone to to have a safe experience and a safe conversations when they are online. And we know that as we have grown as a company, so has our responsibility to ensure that people who use our platforms are safe and they can continue to connect with one another.
All right, fantastic. So I think it makes sense to conclude that digital security is in our own hands, and that we kind of set the tone for our own online experiences with how safe we choose to be with what we do online. All right, so we are speaking to Emila Vusha, Public Policy Lead at Facebook for the SADC region. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation.
Thank you so much.
All right, fantastic. So hopefully we'll see you again later on, maybe in the next season or later on in this season. But thank you so much for chatting to us.
Thank you so much. I look forward to it.
Cool, bye-bye. It's about that time in the show where we get into our community notice board. Have a look at it. And with all of that being said, that right there is how we wrap up this week's edition of Free Media, Free Mind. So thank you for choosing to free your mind with me, Chelsea Noah Ogilvie, and thank you to my guests for joining us from all over Africa, Jean-Pierre Afadali, as well as Nashilongo Gervaisis. And lastly, thanks to Lane DeToy joining us in this discussion as well. So from me, have a fantastic week further. If you would like to join in the conversations or keep the conversation going, you can on our social media platforms at freemedia.freeminds or Free Media Free Minds. From me, keep it real, and if it's unreal, keep it anyway.